Okay, welcome in. I am extremely behind on my hockey, so I do apologize. I got about 10 days to make it forward, so this video might take an hour long just to review and recap of where we're at in the NHL. And thank God we're on a Christmas break, because otherwise I'd probably be 12 days behind. So on the Sunday, December 15th, there were 5 games on tap. The first one had the Blackhawks playing host to the New York Islanders. In the first, Ilya McKay would open up the scoring, getting his 3rd goal of the year from Teravainen and Allen, 9:08 of the opening frame. With 1 minute and 17 seconds to go in the first, Ryan Pulock would get his 1st goal of the season unassisted, tying the game up at 1. With 20 seconds to go in the first, the Blackhawks would break the tie, courtesy of Taylor Hall. He'd get his 7th goal of the season from Teravainen and Vlasic. In the second period, Simon Holmstrom would tie the game up at 2, getting his 9th goal of the season from Engvall and McLean. 2:25 of the second period. Teuvo Teravainen would strike, getting his 7th goal of the season, a power play goal from Bedard and Vlasic. 15:19 of the second frame. Noah Dobson would tie the game up at 3 in the third, just 47 seconds in, his 4th of the season from Nelson and Siplikov. And then Connor Bedard would strike with just 54 seconds to go, putting the Blackhawks back on top, getting his 7th goal of the season, assisted by Donato. The Islanders would pull their goalie. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, as Connor Murphy would get the empty netter, his 1st of the season, unassisted, with 11 seconds to go. The next game took place in Toronto, as we had the Maple Leafs playing host to the Buffalo Sabres. Just 1 minute and 3 seconds in the opening frame, Jack Quinn would open up the scoring, getting his 2nd goal of the season on the power play from Peterka and Byram. Alex Tuch would increase the lead to 2-0, 2 minutes and 46 seconds in the same period, getting his 9th of the year from Benson and Tage Thompson. Max Domi would put the Leafs on the board, 15:45 of the first, getting his 1st goal of the season. I can't believe it's been almost over 2 months of the year, and he finally got his 1st goal, assisted by Robertson and McMahon. I do apologize. Jack Quinn would give the Sabres a 2-goal lead again, getting his 3rd goal of the year from Peterka and Samuelson, 9:11 of the second period. Nick Robertson would cut into that lead, 11:20 of the second, getting his 3rd goal of the year from McMahon and Domi, 11:20 of the second period. John Tavares would tie the game up in the second, 12:41 into that frame, getting his 13th goal of the year on the power play from Matthews and Nylander. He would score again just 1 minute and 10 seconds after that, getting his 2nd goal of the game, his 14th of the season from Tanev and Ekman Larsson, putting the Leafs on top 4-3. He would get an empty net goal in the third, his 3rd of the game. It's a hat trick, his 15th of the season from Nyes and Marner, with 2 minutes and 12 seconds to go in the game. So despite the fact the Leafs were down 2-1, 3-1, they were actually able to come back and win 5-3. The Carolina Hurricanes played host to the Columbus Blue Jackets. In the first period, Sebastian Aho would kick things off, getting his 8th goal of the year, a shorthanded goal, assisted by Seth Jarvis, 8:28 of the opening frame. William Carrier would increase the lead to 2-0 with 52 seconds to go, getting his 3rd goal of the year from Stahl and Martinuk. In the second period, Dmitry Voronikov would finally get the Blue Jackets on the board with 4 minutes and 8 seconds to go. For Voronikov, that'd be his 8th goal of the year, assisted by Marchenko and Provorov. Jordan Martinuk would increase the lead to 3-1, 17:16 of the second, getting his 7th of the year from Stahl and Orlov, increasing the lead to 3-1. And then in the third, Kotkaniemi would increase the lead to 4-1, getting his 5th of the year from Nietzsche and Sean Walker. That's where we'd stand at the end of regulation, so the Hurricanes would win 4-1. All right, the next game took place in St. Louis, as we had the Blues playing host to the New York Rangers. Pavel Buchnevich, a former Ranger, I may add, would score in the first period, 1:09 to go, getting his 8th of the year from Neighbors and Rob Thomas. In the second period, Kyrou would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 13th of the year from Torpachenko and Braden Shen, 6:33 of the second period. Robert Thomas would increase the lead to 3-0, getting his 6th goal of the year, 10:28 of the second frame, making it 3-0 at that point in favor of the Blues. Brett Berard would score in the third, getting the Rangers their first goal of the game, 10:18 of the third. That'd be his second goal of the season, unassisted. Will Cooley would cut into that lead, making it 3-2, getting his 11th goal of the year from Lafreniere and Hedl, 11:37 of the third period. Unfortunately for New York, they were not able to mount a comeback, so 3-2 would be the final score. And the last game from the 15th, again, I got a long ways to go to catch up, had the Minnesota Wild taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. In the first period, Kirill Kaprizov would kick things off for the Wild, getting his 21st goal of the year, assisted by Zuccarello, a minute 30 into the opening frame. Victor Olofsson would tie the game up at 1, getting his 6th goal of the season on the power play from Theodore and Eichel, 9:31 of the opening frame. In the second, Shea Theodore would break the tie, getting his 4th goal of the year from Eichel and Stone, 6:04 of the second frame, putting Vegas on top 2-1. Kaprizov would tie the game up at 2, 16:56 of the second, getting his 2nd goal of the game, 22nd goal of the year. There's a lot of seconds, assisted by Faber and Zuccarello. In the third period, Olofsson would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 7th of the season from Karlsson and Dorofeyev, 3:49 of the third, and that would be the game-winning goal. No more goals were scored the rest of the game, so the Wild would lose, unfortunately, 3-2 to the Vegas Golden Knights. On Monday, December 16th, there were only 3 games on the schedule, starting in Dallas as the Stars played host to the Washington Capitals. In the first, Dylan Strome would kick things off for the Capitals, getting his 11th goal of the year, assisted by Chichurkin and Radish, 15:39 of the opening frame. Roope Hintz would tie the game up in the second, getting his 12th goal of the year on the power play from Ben and Johnston, 13:28 of the middle frame. Staying in the second period, Leon Binchel would get his 2nd goal of the year from Robertson and Bork, with 2 minutes and 25 seconds to go in the second. And with just over 5 minutes remaining in the third, Roope Hintz would get his 2nd goal of the game, his 13th of the year, assisted by Jason Robertson. So despite the fact the Capitals got the opening goal of the game, they allowed 3 straight and would lose 3-1. The next game was a high-scoring affair between the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. This was a rematch of last year's Stanley Cup final. In the first, Jesper Boqvist would kick things off for the Panthers, getting a short-handed goal, unassisted, 2:42 of the opening frame. Zach Hyman would tie the game up at 1 with just under 5 minutes to go, getting his 9th of the year, assisted by McDavid and Evan Bouchard. Matthew Tkachuk would strike with just 28 seconds to go, getting his 11th goal of the season on the power play from Verhaeghe and Sam Reinhart, 28 seconds remaining in the period. Zach Hyman would get his 2nd goal of the game in the second period, his 10th of the season from McDavid and Draisaitl, 6 minutes and 20 seconds of the middle frame. Connor Brown would put the Oilers on top, 7:03 of the second, his 6th of the year, assisted by Corey Perry. Draisaitl would give the Oilers a 2-goal lead, getting his 23rd of the season on the power play from McDavid and Ekholm, 9:24 of the second period. With 2 minutes and 5 seconds to go in the second, Forsling would cut into the lead, getting his 5th of the year from Lundell and Aaron Ekblad. Nico Mikkola would tie the game up at 4, in the third, getting his 3rd goal of the year from Lundell and Luosterainen, 6:53 of the third. Sam Reinhart would break the tie, 7:23 of the third, getting his 20th of the season unassisted, putting the Panthers back on top, 5-4. Kasperi Kapanen would tie the game up at 5, 8:02 of the third, getting his 4th of the season, assisted by Brett Kulak. And with just under 7 minutes to go, Carter Verhaeghe would get the game-winning goal, his 9th of the year from Bennett and Mikkola, 13:05 of the third period. So a wild game, to say the least, a lot of goals, 6-5 in favor of the defending Stanley Cup champs. And the last game from Monday, the 16th, had the Vancouver Canucks playing host to the Colorado Avalanche. In the first period, Kiefer Sherwood would kick things off for Vancouver, getting his 9th goal of the year from Heinen and Sutter, 16-14 of the first. He get his second goal of the game, unassisted, shorthanded this time, with 3 minutes and 56 seconds to go, putting the Canucks on top 2-0. He would then get a hat trick in the third with 2 minutes and 35 seconds to go, getting his 11th of the year, assisted by Quinn Hughes, an empty net goal because Colorado did pull their goalie. The Avs would score a late goal, courtesy of Valery Nichushkin, with 46 seconds to go, his 8th of the year from Rantanen and Cale Makar, but unfortunately, because they let in the empty net goal, they would lose 3-1. Okay, now I'm going to take a look at Tuesday's action, which would have been the 17th of December. There were a lot of games on tap. There's no point in me even trying to scroll through all of them. Let's just dive into it. So we had the Montreal Canadiens playing host to the Buffalo Sabres. Both teams were struggling. Both teams had higher expectations coming into this season. Unfortunately, what you expect and what are reality are two different things. So we're going to kick things off in La Belle Province as Yoel Armia would kick things off just 19 seconds into the first period, getting his 5th goal of the year from Evans and Heineman. Patrick Laine, who has been red hot since he came back into the lineup, would get his 4th of the season, a power play goal from Suzuki and Slavkovsky, 6:26 of the first. Dylan Cousins would finally get the Sabres on the board in the second, 3:43 of the middle frame, getting his 7th goal of the year, assisted by Peterka and Owen Power. Uri Slavkovsky would increase the lead to 3-1, getting his 3rd of the year from Caulfield and Savard, 5:54 of the second period. Big surprise, Patrick Laine would score his 2nd goal of the game, his 5th of the year on the power play from Suzuki and Lane Hudson, 9:45 of the middle frame. He would strike again on the power play just a minute and 10 seconds after that, getting his 6th of the season, obviously it would be his hat-trick goal from Caulfield and Lane Hudson, increasing the lead to 5-1. With 45 seconds to go, Josh Anderson, I remember he struggled so badly last year with scoring, would get his 6th of the year from Dvorak and Gallagher, increasing the lead to 6-1. There was no scoring in the third, so the Canadiens would win comfortably 6-1. Tampa Bay Lightning played host to the Columbus Blue Jackets. In the first, Luke Glendening would kick things off for the Lightning, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Perbix and Lilleberg, 3:21 of the opening frame. In the second, Nick Paul would increase the lead to 2-0, unassisted, his 7th of the season, a minute 28 in the middle period. Jake Guentzel would increase the lead to 3-0, getting his 18th of the year, assisted by Nick Paul, 7:36 of the middle frame. Mitchell Chaffee would increase the lead to 4-0 on the power play from Paul and Hegel. For Chaffee, that'd be his 6th goal of the season, 14:18 of the second frame. Michael Pitia, I believe, I hope I said that name correctly, would finally put the Blue Jackets on the board, getting his 2nd of the season from Corelli, 7:23 of the third period, cutting into the lead, making it 4-1. Adam Fantilli would cut the lead to 4-2, getting his 6th of the year from Marchenko, 8:05 of the third period. Cole Sillinger would make it really interesting, cutting the lead to 4-3, getting a power play goal, his 6th of the season from Voronikov and Marchenko. Braden Point would get an empty net goal with just over 2 minutes to go, putting the Lightning giving the Lightning a 2-goal cushion. His 21st of the season from Kucherov and Jake Guentzel. So the Lightning finally stopped the bleeding, got the empty net goal, and would escape with a 5-3 win, despite the fact they're up 4-0. All right, the next one has the Pittsburgh Penguins, and they played host to the Los Angeles Kings. I can't believe, it seems like the Penguins got their second life or their second wind. They struggled to start the season off, but now they seem to be they have found their mojo, to say the least. Adrian Kempe would open up the scoring just 33 seconds in to the opening period, getting his 16th goal of the season from Kopitar and Garikov. Malkin would tie the game up in the second, getting his 7th of the year from Bunting and Brian Rust, 6:22 of the second. Alex Turcotte would put the Kings back on top, getting his 4th goal of the year from Garikov and Spence, 11:38 of the second frame. Matt Grizzlejic would get his first goal as a member of the Penguins since joining them and leaving Boston in the offseason from Crosby and Raquel. 14:25 of the third period, tying the game up at 2. We would need overtime to settle this one. And a minute 44 into the overtime frame, Rickard Raquel will get the game-winning goal, his 14th of the season, assisted by Carlson and Bunting. So the Penguins would win 3-2 in overtime. All right, now we're off to the Metropolitan Division as we have the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the New York Islanders. In the first period, Andrei Svechnikov would open up the scoring for the Canes, getting his 12th goal of the season on the power play from Aho and Shane Gothenburg, 5:47 of the opening frame. Jordan Martinook would increase the lead to 2-0, 8:21 of the first, getting his 8th goal of the season, assisted by Jordan Staal. Tyson Yost, I believe, was acquired, if I'm not mistaken, by the Hurricanes. Would get his 2nd goal of the season from Shane Gothenburg and Roslovic, 11:13 of the second frame, increasing the lead to 3-0. And Sebastian Aho would score with just 16 seconds to go in the second, increasing the lead to 4-0. That would be his 9th goal of the season from Robinson and Slavin. There was no scoring the rest of the game, so the Hurricanes would shut out the Islanders 4-0. All right, now we're off to St. Louis as the Blues played host to the New Jersey Devils. Andre Palat would kick things off for the Devils in the first, 15:13 of the opening frame, getting his 6th goal of the season from Luke Hughes and Pesce. Stefan Neeson, I believe, would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 14th of the year on the power play from Hischier and Jack Hughes, 13:09 of the second period. Brendan Dillard would increase the lead to 3-0, 3:38 of the third, getting his 2nd goal of the season unassisted. Jordan Kyrou would finally get the Blues on the board, getting his 14th of the year from Falk and Shen, 10:28 of the third. I apologize. The Blues would pull their goalie with over 3 minutes to go. Unfortunately, it did not pan out as Jesper Bratt would get the empty net goal, his 14th of the season, assisted by Jack Hughes. So the Devils would win 4-1. All right, now we're off to Smashville as the Predators played host to the New York Rangers. Just 2 goals in this game. Jonathan Marchessault would end up getting the game-winning goal, his 8th of the year from Stamkos and Forsling, 13:37 of the first. Adam Wisbley would get his 1st goal of the season. It may have been his 1st career goal as well, so congratulations on that from Stamkos and Forsling. 11:59 of the third, the Preds would shut out the Rangers 2-0. All right, now we're off to Chicago as the Blackhawks played host to the Washington Capitals. In the first, Pierre-Luc Dubois would open up the scoring for the Caps, getting his 5th of the year, 4:16 of the first, unassisted. Andrew Mangiapane would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 7th of the year from Eller and Vrana, 13:18 of the first. Ilya Mikheyev would cut into the lead 51 seconds into the third, getting a shorthanded goal from Teravainen. For Mikheyev, that'd be his 4th goal of the season. TJ Brodie would tie the game up at 2 with just under 6 minutes to go, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Mikheyev and Teravainen. And then Ryan Donato would score with 2 minutes and 18 seconds to go, putting the Blackhawks on top, 3-2, his 11th of the year from Murphy and Teravainen. So despite the fact that Blackhawks were down 3-0 heading into the third, or down 2-0 heading into the third, they got 3 goals and would win 3-2. All right, the Calgary Flames played host to the Boston Bruins. Just 54 seconds in the second, no scoring in the first. Matt Carano would open up the scoring for the Flames, getting his 8th of the year from Coleman and Backlund, 54 seconds of the middle frame. Nazem Kadri would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 12th of the year from Huberdeau and Pospisil, a minute and 21 seconds into the middle frame. Elias Lindholm, a former Flame, I'm sure he had this game circled on his schedule, would score against his former team, getting his 4th of the season, unassisted, 6:31 of the second frame. Ryan Lomberg would get his 1st goal since rejoining the Flames, assisted by Zari and Pelletier, 17:19 of the second period, putting the Flames on top, 3-1. Cue the comeback. Morgan Geekie would cut into the lead, 4:14 of the third, getting his 6th of the year from Peaky and Lowry. Mark McLaughlin would tie the game up at 3, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Marchand and Lindholm, 6:51 of the third. And then David Pastrnak would score in overtime, getting the game-winning goal from Charlie McAvoy with 38 seconds to go. So despite the fact that the Bruins were down 3-1 in the third, they would win 4-3 in overtime. All right, the Seattle Kraken played host to the Ottawa Senators. There was no scoring in the first. Shane Pinto would finally get the 0 off the board in the second, getting his 4th of the year from Amadio, 8:02 of the middle frame. Noah Gregor would increase the lead to 2-0, 12:45 of the middle period, getting his 4th of the year from Greg and Ospachuk, I believe is how you pronounce that. In the third, Tim Stutz will get his 11th goal of the year from Gaudette and Claude Giroux, 4:18 of the third. So the Sens would show the Kraken 3-0. And the last game from December 17th had the San Jose Sharks playing against the Winnipeg Jets. In the first period, Kyle Connor would kick things off for Winnipeg, getting his 18th of the year from Scheifele and Velarde, 12:18 of the first. Tyler Toffoli, a former Jet, would score against his former team, getting his 13th of the year from Kovalenko and Celebrini, 1:52 of the second frame. Mark Scheifele would put the Jets back on top, getting his 17th of the year on the power play from Perfetti and Velarde, 7:28 of the middle frame. Macklin Celebrini would tie the game up with just under 3 minutes to go, getting his 11th goal of the season on the power play from Wallman and Toffoli. Zetterlund, would break the tie in the third, getting his 11th goal of the year from Wallman, 4:44 of the third. Kyle Connor would strike again, getting his second goal of the game, his 19th of the season on the power play from Velarde and Scheifele. Adam Lowry, the captain, would score with 1:13 to go, getting his 9th of the year from DeMello and Appleton. That would be the game-winning goal, and the Jets would win 4-3. All right, that takes care of the 17th. Okay, now I'm going to move on to Wednesday, December 18th, so just 8 days ago. I'm slowly getting there. The Detroit Red Wings played host to the Philadelphia Flyers. There were 5 games on that particular night, by the way. Travis Konechny would kick things off for the Flyers in the first, getting his 16th of the year from Farabee and Sean Couturier, 1:06 into the opening frame. JT Compher would score with just under 2 minutes to go, getting his 4th of the season on the power play from Larkin and Luke Raymond. In the second, Alex DeBrincat would break the tie, getting his 13th of the season, assisted by his good friend, Patrick Kane, 10:15 of the middle frame. Noah Cates would tie the game up at 2, 10:40 of the second frame, getting his 3rd goal of the year from Forster and Sealer. Michael Rasmussen would break the tie, 16:05 of the second, getting his 6th goal of the season from JT Compher, putting the Red Wings back on top 3-2. Joe Veleno would increase the lead to 4-2, 17:27 of the second. For Veleno, that'd be his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Fisher. 3:50 of the third, Ryan Poehling would cut into that lead, getting his 2nd of the year from Couturier and Sanheim, 3:50 of the third period. Owen Tippett would tie the game up at 4, 5:39 of the third, getting his 10th of the year from Lawton and Drysdale. Patrick Kane would finally score his 4th of the season, putting the Red Wings back on top, 7:22 of the third, assisted by Seider. That'd be his 4th of the year, like I said. And then Philadelphia would pull their goalie with just over a minute to go. Unfortunately, it did not pan out. Lucas Raymond would get his 13th of the season, an empty netter, assisted by Dylan Larkin. And that happened with 1:12 to go in the third. All right, the Dallas Stars played host to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Sam Steele would kick things off for the Stars in the first, getting his 4th goal of the year from Bach and Stankoven, 5:14 of the opening frame. Max Domi would score against one of his many former teams, getting his 2nd goal of the season, assisted by Morgan Riley, 6:13 of the first. Evgeny Donatov would break the tie just 22 seconds into the second, getting his 8th of the year from Wyatt Johnston and Jamie Benn. William Nylander would tie the game up at 2 in the second, 5:15 of that frame, his 19th of the season from Matthews and Marner. Nick Robertson would break the tie, getting his 4th goal of the season unassisted, 5:31 of the second frame. Bobby McMahon would increase the lead to 4-2, 11:01 of the second, getting his 7th of the season from Nick Robertson. Colin Blackwell would cut into the lead in the third, 17:44, or 2 minutes and 16 seconds remaining on the clock. That'd be his third goal of the year from Dadonov and Heiskanen. The Stars would pull their goalie. Unfortunately, it did not pan out. William Nylander would get his second goal of the game, his 20th of the season, assisted by John Tavares. So the final score would be 5-3 in favor of Toronto. Alrighty, now we're off to Minnesota as the Wild played host to the Panthers. The only thing wild about this game was the score for the other team. Aaron Ekblad would kick things off for the Panthers, getting his second goal of the season from Boqvist and Samskovich, 3:48 of the first. Marco Rossi would get the only goal for the Wild, 16:11 of the first, on the power play, his 12th of the year from Kaprizov and Matt Boldy. Mackenzie Samskovich would put the Panthers up on top 2-1 with 1:46 to go, getting his 6th of the year, assisted by Ekblad. Matthew Tkachuk would increase the lead to 3-1, getting his 12th goal of the year from Barkov and Verhaeghe, 15:28 of the second. Matthew Tkachuk would score in the second with 1:06 to go, getting his 13th of the year on the power play from Verhaeghe and Ekblad. Niko Mikkola would score 11:10 of the third, increasing the lead to 5-1. That'd be his 4th of the season from Lundell and Reinhart. And Luosterainen would score with 30 seconds to go from Evan Rodriguez, getting his 4th of the season, increasing the lead to 6-1. I had a funny feeling once the game got to like 3-1, 4-1, the fans were probably like, you know what, let's just get out of here. Beat the traffic. All right, the Utah Hockey Club played host to the Vancouver Canucks. There was no scoring in the first. Danton Heinen would break the tie in the second, getting his 5th goal of the season on the power play, assisted by Quinn Hughes. Dakota Joshua would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 2nd goal of the season from Bluger and Quinn Hughes, 2:45 of the third. Captain Clayton Keller, I never get tired of saying that, would finally get Utah on the board in the third, 9:02 to be specific, his 11th of the year from Schmaltz and Hayton. Dylan Guenther would tie the game up with 4 minutes and 30 seconds to go, getting his 14th of the year on the power play from Keller and Cooley. We would need overtime to settle this one, and Mikhail Sergachev would get the game-winning goal with just 12 seconds to go, assisted by Logan Cooley. So despite the fact that Utah Hockey Club were down 2 goals, they would get 3 straight goals and win this in OT. All right, now we're off to Anaheim as the Ducks played host to the Winnipeg Jets. There was no scoring in the first. Frank Vatrano would break the tie in the second, getting his 8th goal of the year from Gudas and Strome, 4:45 of the middle frame. Gabriel Velarde would tie the game up in the second, getting a power play goal, his 14th of the year from Ehlers and Connor, 10:24 of the second. Mark Scheifele would break the tie in the third, 4 minutes and 13 seconds into the frame, getting his 18th of the year, assisted by Kyle Connor. With just under 5 minutes to go, Vatrano would get his second goal of the game. I apologize. His 9th of the year from Lacombe and Gudas. And with 26 seconds to go, Troy Terry would break the tie, getting the game-winning goal, assisted by Vatrano. So the Ducks would win stunningly 3-2. That takes care of Wednesday's recap. I'm nearly there. Okay, now we're off to Thursday, where there are a total of 9 games on December 19th. Starting in Tampa Bay as the Lightning played host to the St. Louis Blues. Anthony Cirelli would kick things off in the first, getting his 13th of the year from Geekie and Hagel, 5:14 of the opening frame. Nick Perbix would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 4th of the year from Kucherov and Braden Point, 3:42 of the middle frame. Pavel Vucinovic would put the Blues on the board, getting his 9th of the year from Rob Thomas and newly acquired Cam Fowler, the defenseman, 12:15 of the second period. Staying in the second, 13:33 of that frame, Gage Goncalves, I believe, would get his first National Hockey League goal, assisted by Kucherov, increasing the lead to 3-1, and that's where we would stand at the end of regulation. The Columbus Blue Jackets played host to the New Jersey Devils. Ivan Provorov would kick things off for Columbus in the first, getting his 3rd goal of the year from Aston Reese and Mathieu Olivier, 7:55 of the opening frame. Zach Werenski would increase the lead to 2-0, getting his 11th of the season on the power play from Marchenko and Sean Monahan, 9:36 of the second. Speaking of Monahan, he'd get on the goal scorer sheet himself, getting his 10th of the year from Voronkov and Marchenko, 1358 of the middle frame. In the third period, Luke Hughes would finally get the Devils on the board with 2 minutes and 50 seconds to go, getting his second goal of the season, assisted by Cotter and Palat. Timo Meier would score with 1:25 to go, giving the Devils a little bit of hope. That'd be his 11th of the year from Jack Hughes and his brother Luke. The Devils would pull their goalie. Unfortunately, it did not pan out, as just 15 seconds after that, Sean Monahan would get his second goal of the game, his 11th of the year unassisted, so the Blue Jackets would win 4-2. A high-scoring game in Philly as the Kings went into Philadelphia to take on the Flyers. Kevin Fiala would kick things off for LA in the first, getting his 11th goal of the season, assisted by Deneau, 10:53 of the opening frame. Noah Cates would tie the game up in the first, 14:11 of that frame, getting his 4th goal of the season, assisted by Brink and Forster. Tanner Janot would put the Kings back on top, 1:31 into the second, getting his 4th of the year from Fogle and Spence. Tyson Forster would get his 7th goal of the year from Scott Lawton, 11:30 of the middle frame. Tyson Forster would get his second goal of the game, his 8th of the year from Frost and Tippett, 15:04 of the second frame. The Flyers were on top 3-2 at that point, but unfortunately, they kind of unraveled after that. With 44 seconds to go, Kopitar would tie the game up, getting his 9th of the year from Lafreniere and Garikov. 1:54 into the third, Warren Fogle would put the Kings back on top, getting his 9th goal of the year from Spence and Mouvre, I believe. 1:54 of the third. Anze Kopitar would get his second goal of the game, his 10th of the year from Turcotte and Garikov, 10:39 of the third, giving the Kings a 5-3 lead. Quinton Byfield would score an empty net goal with just under 4 minutes to go, his 5th of the season unassisted. And then with 2 minutes and 24 seconds to go, Kevin Fiala would strike again, getting his second goal of the game, his 12th of the year from Lafreniere and Clark. So